Hello there everyone, this is Mr. Burda, and today I'm going to be reviewing eukaryotic cell structures for you. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the main organelles that I'd like to cover in our cells unit, and just going over their main structure and function so you can link all of this cell stuff together. So first, just a bit of review here. An organelle is just a cell component that performs a specific function for the cell. Just like your heart is specifically going to pump blood, or your brain is specifically going to send signals throughout your body, the organs in your body are similar to, or an analogy for, the organelles that do specific jobs within your cell. And to help that out, to help that scenario out, we have cytoplasm within the cell. So down here, let me go back. Down here you can see I have written the cytoplasm. And the cytoplasm is actually the portion of the cell outside of the nucleus. And it's actually a fluid type substance that allows the organelles to not have to bounce around the inside of the cell like a ping pong ball. So you want a fluid interaction. So here's the definition for the cytoplasm, if you really need to see the definition. It's the region between the cell membrane and the nucleus, and it will contain the variety of organelles in that fluid substance that we call the cytosol. So here you can see my pointer is pointing to all this fluid inside of the cell, and that way everything can move around very easily within the cell. Here we have the cell membrane. Now this is a very important part of the cell. This leads us into our cell transport part of our unit. But this is the portion of the cell that surrounds the cytoplasm. So essentially it's creating a barrier or a gateway to allow certain things in and out of the cell. So over here, if I can get my drawing tool up, over here we have the fluid mosaic model. So this model here is really just a cross section of the cell. You can see within it we have these little channel proteins that are going to allow materials in and out of the cell. And within it we have this phospholipid bilayer, which we have talked about, that hydrophobic area. And this is what is going to, again, regulate the passage of materials in and out of the cell. So quite an important bit that we have here. Third will be the nucleus of the cell. So the nucleus is typically what I call the brain of the cell, or the control center of the cell. So it is what contains the DNA, our blueprint. It would be very unwise to not protect the blueprint or our genetic code. So the nucleus is going to protect that and provide a safe environment for the DNA. And again, the DNA is what provides our body with the coding instructions for all of the proteins and other molecules that we need to make. So very, very important that we keep that protected. So after the nucleus, we have these little guys called ribosomes. And ribosomes are tiny little molecules that actually, their main job is to make proteins. So these guys are the protein factories of the cell. Proteins are assembled there. They're actually made up of ribosomal RNA as well as other proteins. And you can find them all throughout the cell in the cytoplasm, and you can also find them stuck on the rough endoplasmic reticulum. We say it's a rough endoplasmic reticulum because the rough appearance of it are actually little ribosomes stuck all over the surface of it. So that's how the rough endoplasmic reticulum got its name. Speaking of the endoplasmic reticulum, here is a good photograph of, or depiction of the rough endoplasmic reticulum. You can see those little dots on the outside of the rough ER. Those are the ribosomes, and it's actually almost a tube system of membranes and different sacs, and they're actually used to make proteins as well as some lipids, and it transports them along this highway through the ER. So I would say it's used for two main things. It's used for synthesizing proteins as well as transporting the proteins along its highway. So it looks like a little maze system. And here would be the difference between the rough endoplasmic reticulum, which we just saw right here, and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So the structure of the rough ER, which we just saw, the structure of the rough ER, it does have ribosomes. That's why it looks rough. They stick on the outside edge. And the function is to make protein. The smooth ER is smooth, so it has no ribosomes on it, so it looks smooth. And its main function, although we don't get too far into this, is typically to just transport the proteins. It does the transporting of the proteins that were made here at the rough ER. This gets a little bit advanced about the calcium, creation of calcium and steroids and things like that, but typically it's just used in transport because it looks like that tube or that highway. So right outside of the endoplasmic reticulum, we have the Golgi apparatus, and there you can see a picture of it on the right. I think the Golgi apparatus, I always think it looks like a stack of pancakes. That's how I always tell it apart from all the other organelles. So this guy is kind of the FedEx or post office of the cell. So it's used specifically for processing and packaging all of that stuff that was made earlier in the cell. So when the ER made those proteins and it's finally shipped down the line to the Golgi, this is the little guy that packages it up and ships it out to be sent throughout the cell or maybe even to another cell. So it's actually similar to the ER. It is a system of membranes and flattened sacs. So you can see there, flattened sacs actually makes it look like that pancake. And then you can see actually on the side, it doesn't package them up quite like the UPS guy, but you can see here, they actually use these little guys called vesicles, and vesicles are these little membrane-bound things that are used to ship things throughout the cell. It's almost like a little bubble, and then they can simply ship it throughout the cell. So it's a perfect little package for shipping. And there's another zoomed-in look at the Golgi apparatus, the kind of packaging center of the cell. Next we have the lysosome, and the lysosome is just a small little spherical sac that's going to contain really strong digestive enzymes, and you can see them right in here. So these are these little orange dots. So you see all these little particles that are getting dissolved in there by these digestive enzymes. So they're very strong. Typically they digest different carbs, lipids, DNA, RNA, old things that we need to get rid of, sometimes viruses and bacteria. And interesting, they're only found in animal cells. So here you can actually see in the bottom corner, I posted an interesting little application for lysosomes. So when we're developing as babies, typically all of our digits are fused together when we're still developing inside of your mom, inside the womb. This baby has a lysosomal disorder where the digits never fully formed because they stayed fused because the lysosomes didn't work properly. The lysosomes are supposed to eat the skin in between the fingers so you have separated fingers, but this baby has a lysosome disorder where they don't have those digestive enzymes to remove that extra skin. Here I have just some lysosomes working in the cell. These right here are food vacuoles, and they're being broken down by these lysosomes here. Next we have a mitochondria, the mitochondria being the powerhouse of the cell where we produce energy. It's also made of membranes. It has two membranes, in fact, and you can see them in here. They're located in here, all folded up. So you know, these are the powerhouse of the cell. So in what types of cells would mitochondria be the most numerous? So you'd have to think to yourself, what cells in our body use up the most energy? Hopefully you were thinking to yourself there that your muscle cells, heart cells, those are the kind of cells that need the most energy, so they'd probably have the most mitochondria. Here is an organelle that is only found in plants. So this is the chloroplast. I'm sure you're quite familiar with this. The function of the chloroplast simply is to take in sunlight and turn it into sugar. So it's converting solar energy into chemical energy. So it's quite a simple idea. It's where photosynthesis takes place. It is also double membrane, contains its own DNA, and is green in color. So probably the easiest organelle to pick out, only found in plants. Next we have vacuoles. Vacuoles I like to think of as vacuums, and vacuums suck in and store things. So these vacuoles are found in plants and animals both, and their job is to simply store things, maybe things like wastes, enzymes, food, water. So think of it as a little storage container where plants and animals can both store things. On the top there you have a plant cell, big old central vacuole in the middle. The bottom there, you can see right here, we have a little paramecium here with a little water vacuole. Here we have a cell wall. Cell walls are only found in plants, not animals. Plain and simple, cell walls' function is to support and protect the cell. Mainly, typically they're only made of cellulose, and they do have some pores, but very strong and sturdy structures used to support and protect the cell. The cytoskeleton, main thing I want you all to know about the cytoskeleton is that it helps maintain the shape and structure of the cell. Similar to if you didn't have your skeleton, you would just be a blob of skin and flesh. So the cells need that as well. I'm not so much worried about that bottom part there, the structure of the microfilaments and microtubules. For my freshman class, I'm mainly concerned with the fact that they're used for maintaining the shape and structure of the cells. And you can see it's that green fibrous looking material within the cell there supporting it and holding it up. The last organelle or structure that I have for you guys are the cilia and flagella. The cilia and flagella are used for movement within a cell. So you can see on the left there we have an organism, a little microorganism that has cilia, and the cilia look like little tiny hairs, and the hairs just move really fast and help push that microorganism around in the pond. The guy on the right there has cilia around the edge, but also has 3 flagellum as well. So it has 3 tails to help it swim around as well. So again, these are made up of microtubules, which are actually part of the cytoskeleton, and they assist in movement of different cells.